I'm wearing my weed. I'm wearing my weed beanie.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if that was the math beanie, but I was like,
it is.
You don't have.
It
is.
It's on the back.
I thought you said you didn't have one. Oh, hey. Oh,
it's on
I
the back.
love it.
Yeah, but I figured I'd turn it around for today since it is 4:20.
Oh yeah, fuck. What day is it? It's 4:20.
4:20. Okay, so cool beans. Oh, someone's here. Hello.
Hi, welcome. Guys. As in person. Welcome to Yang Gang Storytime.
With Meghin and Kateri. Kateri and Meghin.
Meghin and Kateri. Oh yeah, we have to figure out which one's better. Meghin and Kateri or Kateri and Meghin. I think Meghin and Kateri makes more sense.
I like it both ways.
I'm already voting for Meghin. I'm already voting for Kateri and Meghin.
Guys,
no, I think Meghin and Kateri makes more sense.
What sounds better, guys? You let us know.
Yeah. 1 for Meghin and Kateri. 2 for Kateri and Meghin.
Sup. I love how we have our loyal, like our loyal people who always show up.
This is legit.
Hello, Paul and Karina. Oh yeah, it is Karina. Okay.
Karina, yes.
Oh, Karina says
agrees. Yay.
Wearing the same hat. Oh, yay,
Miles.
Miles.
Wearing the same hat today.
It's the perfect hat for today.
It is.
It really is.
I have my other San Pellegrino in a mason jar.
Yay!
This is like a new quarantine favorite. We don't always drink these, but we've just been buying them because we're stuck at home.
Meghin first. It's easier to pronounce.
Okay.
Meghin and Kateri.
Well, look at you loyal fans. You get to be here and decide the order of things.
Everybody else should be having major FOMO.
What color is your shirt? Are we wearing the same color shirt?
It's so it's not actually solid. It says your feelings are valid.
No, I like it.
Yeah, it comforts.
I thought it was like a lighter color of my lilac. This is my favorite color, by the way. Yang Book Club, fun fact, trivia. I have like a cityscape on it. You can't see. There we go.
I see it. That's pretty.
Yeah.
Probably the most difficult question I've been asked all week. I vote president. We're not going to be offended, whatever you vote. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm literally saying put Meghan's name first because
I said put Kateri's name first, and that's just because. I love how I always have this little orb over my head.
Also, it just looks like you have a sea anemone on your wall.
Yes.
I like that though. That would be cool.
A sea anemone?
To have a sea anemone on your wall.
Anemone.
Raise your hand if you like Finding Nemo. I am Dory. I just am Dory.
Just keep
you guys
winning.
That will reveal itself.
Megatary. Someone said we should be Megatary.
That sounds like our like Optimus Prime. What are they called? Our Transformer name.
Yes. Love it. Love it, Paul. A true wordsmith.
Yeah, Megatary. Oh my gosh! Or it sounds like an exotic plant.
That too.
I like both. Both are cool.
Both are cool in different ways.
What are you drinking?
So it's called Aha. It's like a new brand of sparkling water.
Aha.
Yes. This one is apple and ginger. They have one that's black cherry and coffee. And it kind of tastes like Coke. Which makes sense because they're made by Coca-Cola. So.
Oh.
Yeah. But they have caffeine.
Like saying, it's a new. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Like, it's a new like drink thing, and you think it's some like hipster shit, and you're like, oh no, it's totally made by Coca-Cola.
Yeah. And I was wondering because it literally tastes like it. And you look on the back and it's like a product of Coca-Cola. It's like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Smart though.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
what insider information do we have for our loyal fans today, Megan?
Do we want to tell our loyal fans about our poetry plans? Oh, that rhymed. We're starting right now.
We're actually we have the whole thing planned out in rhyme, guys.
A Greg Ellis flow. Actually, we're just gonna
one for Megan, Sarah for Kateri. Okay, yeah. We're gonna be doing some poetry stuff because it's Poetry Month and we have not fully celebrated. So you guys be ready, be prepared. For some fun poetry stuff.
It reminds me of the Lion King.
Just Lion King. Especially next week. We have a very fun thing happening next week. So be prepared for being on Twitter.
Which we all already are. All the time.
Yes. Cool.
So yeah, be looking out for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. And you guys might see some familiar people. So.
Yes. Familiar Yang Gang. And then did we announce the meeting for War on Normal People yet on the page?
I think we did. Yes, we did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you didn't catch that, don't forget that our meeting for War on Normal People is officially scheduled for May 2nd on Saturday. That was right? Okay, yes. Good. But we didn't say the time. It'll probably be around this time.
Yeah.
And we'll announce that soon. Cool.
Awesome.
Housekeeping done.
Yeah. Housekeeping. That always reminds me of when I was a hotel maid and I'd always have to, we'd knock 3 times, knock, 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 housekeeping, knock, 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 housekeeping.
You were always supposed to do it, like, were you instructed to do it exactly like that?
Yes.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah. Did you ever just once mix it up like on April 1st, rebellious dun 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 dun.
No. What was awkward though is when people wouldn't answer and I'd walk in and they're just chilling on their bed and I'm like, could have just said no thank you.
Yeah. That's weird.
Yeah. I have stories. They're great. I should write them down.
Yeah. A different type of story time.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Cool. Okay. So it looks like we got a nice little crowd. I'm sorry if I'm triggering anybody by touching my face. I am so sorry. I'm triggering myself.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So it looks like we got a nice little crowd here. So if you haven't said hi, drop a hello in the chat. I see Will said hi.
Will said hi.
Hello, Will.
Will said hi earlier.
Yes. Awesome. Okay, so let's go ahead. We have a few submissions from you guys. And then we also have Kateri is going to read us something from a book.
Should I show it?
Let's do it.
Pretty little lady named Isabel Allende. You probably know about her. Cool. So let's do it. Do you want to take the first submission, Megan?
Sure. Does touching our faces matter if we don't go out? I mean, probably not, but it's just triggering for some reason now.
But it's like
handshaking. When I see someone shake a hand now in a TV show, I'm like, no, don't do that.
Yeah. You're like, what are you doing? What are you doing? No. It's like a horror, turns into a horror movie all of a sudden.
Oh no, they're infected. Trevor said, hey, Megan, Kateri, I'm working an upcoming listing, so painting and whatnot. So I'll be in and out, but you're streaming for all the workers here. Hello, guys. Yay.
Hello, Trevor people.
Yes.
People with Trevor.
People with Trevor.
Get ready for some poetry.
Awesome. Okay, so do we want to start from the top down or?
Let's start from the bottom.
Sweet. That would be
I'm just being
Paul.
contrary.
All right. So, and Paul, if you don't mind, I'm going to read the body of your email because I think that it really adds to the poetry that you sent in. Okay. So Paul said, "Hey, Meghin and Kateri, thanks for reading my poetry last Monday," which is 2 Mondays ago. Appreciate it. I wanted to submit some more poems for next Monday's show. The first poem is by Zayden Helef. I hope I said that right. Thank you for putting the pronunciation in there. Zayden is a survivor of the 2014 Yazidi genocide by ISIS. After fleeing to northern Iraq to the region known as the Kurdistan region, he lived in a camp close to the Syrian border for several years. Now he works in one of the 3 major cities in the region as an assistant university teacher. I had the honor of meeting Zayden at the Duhok University during a poetry reading. We were both a part of in 2019. At that reading, he read the poem, 2 poems and an incomplete poem. That's the one I'm sharing with you. He also sent us a link. I will throw that link in the description so you guys can check that out. The second poem is one I wrote just before my wife and I made the decision to sell everything and move to Iraq to love, whatever way we could, the Yazidi people who suffered genocide at the hands of ISIS. The contents of this poem are all based on actual things that occurred to the Yazidi people at the hands of ISIS from 2014 to 2016. This is a pretty hard and maybe triggering poem, so if you feel it's not best to share it, I completely understand and support you on that decision. It is called Mother Orphan. The third poem I would like to share is called Gentle Sentiment. I wanted the third poem to be something lighter and beautiful after the heaviness of the first 2. I hope you enjoy them, and I can't wait for the next Monday show. Thanks. Thank you, Paul. I am excited.
Yes. And thanks for the trigger warning. We appreciate it.
We do appreciate trigger warnings. And we can give another one when we're about to actually start reading the poem. Okay, so we'll start with 2 poems and an incomplete poem by Zayden. Okay.
You got
2
this.
poems and an incomplete poem. For every 50 destroyed towns in this country, there is a poem as empty as the country. And for every camp built, a long poem, longer than the range of a missile, deeper than the well of oblivion, which we never get to fall into, wider than Sasha Gray's vagina, which is closer to the eyes of IDPs than anything else. Let me tremble, broader than the space occupied by the stench of Safine's armpits. A deep breath, and I will return, larger than the earth, bolder than a tongue insulting the camp manager, kinder than my middle finger, which still rises toward the world whenever I hear the word life, and lighter than the high from a prostitute's mouth, filled with more meaning than a cemetery, simpler than pitching a tent, more complicated than breathing in it. That was very raw.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That one did not hold back.
In a really good way.
Yeah, it definitely it just conveys an immense amount of complexity, the bolder than a tongue insulting the camp manager, kinder than my middle finger, which still rises toward the world whenever I hear the word life. That, you have to just sit with that line alone just for a minute and ponder it before you can really fully feel it and digest it.
Yeah. And I like how specific it is to what they went through, and yet broad enough that we understand the context. Yeah. That was good.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is because this is something that's maybe already. Well, is this the one that has the link?
Yes.
For it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely a poem that I would want to return to and it's kind of hard to like comment on it too much without
Yeah,
having put more thought into it. So definitely one to return to. But I love poetry like that.
me too. Yeah.
So this is a bit longer, and the second one was the one that has a trigger warning.
Yes.
Okay. I think, right? I'm not saying
Yeah,
anything.
Mother
I'm
Orphan.
not skimming it. Okay. All right. Here we go, guys. Brace yourselves. Mother Orphan. Mother, orphan mother, what is it you have seen? Have I closed my eyes for so long? Have I ever really seen? Where is father, orphan mother? Did he run like you from home? Did he fall onto his knees? Did they take his head right from him? Earth turned red just beneath him. Is he in a pit not far from town with your neighbors and your friends? Mother orphan, orphan mother, oh, how far it is you've come, when while walking did your feet bleed, as the blisters broke beneath them? Did the screams come to chase you? Did the fears come to wake you? Did the slip of sister's hand when they pulled her from your arms haunt your weary, nodding head? Oh, my dear orphan mother, where is it you have gone? Have I closed the door so tightly? Have I turned off all the lights? Where is sister, mother orphan? Did the men decide to take her? Did they marry just to rape her? Was she sold when they were through to more monsters to consume her? Should she find her way back to you, will her tears remain unanswered and her spirit always broken? Is it small, the tent you sleep in? And how big a squalid pen? Is the food enough to feed you? Are the sheets enough to keep you with no gas for use to heat you? When the winter winds come blowing, do they sound like little brother when he whimpered in their hands? Mother orphan, orphan mother, where is brother, mother orphan? Is he in schools for teaching murder, counting numbers by the bullets, counting heads from little rabbits, chanting words of deepest evil? When he speaks out, do they beat him? When he fails them, do they keep him? Do they take him to the schoolyard, have the older kids to bind him and his peers with bigger knives, like the rabbits all before him, take his little head? Mother orphan, oh my mother, are you all alone and broken? Is the pain inside too great that while waking you are fainting, and while sleeping you are waking to night terrors of your loved ones, of an evil them defiling and their bodies all consuming? Only to realize, mother orphan, these are memories, not dreams. Where am I, mother orphan, when they did this to our family? Was I running right beside you? Was I with you far from home? Was I even there at all? Or was I watching at a distance? Too many cares to truly notice. Was I lounging on soft cushions in the safety that you craved? Was I standing in the high places? Was I lying on long beaches? Was I shopping with the money that could have ransomed sister home? Was I eating all the food until my belly grew so large? Was I working on a diet while your belly groaned and ached? And your heart it broke and broke and broke, while they butchered all our fathers, while they raped so many sisters, and taught our little brothers to do it all again. I am sorry, orphan mother, that I never truly cared, that at most I saw the headlines while I watched the television, change the channel to my show. I am sorry, mother orphan. Are you there still, orphan mother? Or did you wither all away like a tree without its water, like a ghost without its soul, like a problem long neglected, like a secret locked and hidden, thrown in waters with your chains buried deep inside a box in a land without name? I am sorry, orphan mother, so very sorry, mother orphan. I'm sorry, mother, father, sister, brother, mother. I'm so sorry. So, so sorry. By Paul Andrighetti. Oh, started to like get heart palpitations as I was reading that. I mean, yeah, thanks for the trigger warning. There's definitely like those moments of violence, but there's something about the voice that feels, I mean, I think it's pretty intentionally childlike, that makes it more readable at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
As terrible as it is,
It's like
an interesting mixture.
The truth is being told without necessarily like throwing it at you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a little more passive, I guess, because of, I think, all of the questions. And there's this sense of feeling lost and disconnected, but all of these concrete images are still like surrounding you. And I think that's really effective at like just getting the sense of the reader and the intention across. So yeah, I mean, just a stunning poem. Like, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I almost like,
it's really beautiful.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, I don't even know what to say besides that it's beautiful, because I feel like I need to read it again and again and again. You know what I mean? Like,
we're gonna have to start reading these, some of these before,
I know.
At least the ones that Paul sends in.
I know. Karina said, "Perpetual tears, bravo." Tears, yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Yes. I kind of teared up a little bit myself.
Yeah, I was trying not to.
Yeah.
I'm like a little shaky. Like that's
yeah, it's definitely one that like, I think it's a very important poem. I mean, it's a very important poem.
It's very well done.
Yes. Paul, you are just like, I get so like, I don't know, I've told Kateri this before. I cannot believe that you guys like entrust these poems to us. Like,
I know.
I'm grateful and like in awe of like just the, not just the talent, but the beauty of these pieces that you guys send to us.
Yeah. I just feel like you're sending us work that should be published, and so I feel like a little bit selfish, like we're taking it in that way.
I definitely think you guys
keep sending them in.
I know.
Don't stop, please. Yeah.
That's
okay. So we have one more.
Yeah, Rachel, that's pretty much how I also feel.
Yeah, like I want to print these and think about them, think them more through.
Yeah. Okay.
For sure.
So the last one is Gentle Sentiment. I'm going to take some water. Okay. Gentle Sentiment. The beautiful things of many particles placed with gentle sentiment, deep like the valley floor, stacked to bridge the space between this earth and heaven. A holy meeting place of God and man, beating here in this chest, throbbing at the injustice, yearning for the kind touching, the sweet kissing, and simple, soft singing. Swooning to many voices, lifting old familiar tunes with too many hallelujahs, but each one new for this day, each in answer to our questions, the only one we need. By Paul Andrighetti.
That is really nice.
Yeah, this one like soothes me. I really like the sweet kissing and simple soft singing was so like cathartic to say because it like rolls off.
Yeah. There's just something really powerful about, for any of you who haven't actually tried it, of what we're doing right now. Like, I love reading poetry aloud, and there's something that is really cathartic, because you get to like actualize those thoughts. And it's like sounds all spiritual and stuff, but it is like, I literally think there's like, if you could do like a test on it, like there would be some sort of part of your brain that you're exercising and doing it. Like, if you want to get scientific about it, I highly recommend that. I just love how like first of all, every single line is very just so intentional, and so like makes you feel something. Like, there's not a single line that I feel like you could do away with. Swooning to many voices, lifting old familiar tunes with too many hallelujahs. Like, each one feels like a hug.
Yeah.
You know, and an intentional hug.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really liked the first stanza. I just like things that give visualizations of place and nature. Like, I love nature writing and stuff. So I really loved the deep like the valley floor, stacked to bridge the space between this earth and heaven. That's just such a beautiful image of like thinking of a valley all the way up to like heaven or outer space or something, you know? So really like beautiful imagery and beautiful thoughts. Like, yeah. Thank you for letting us end on that poem, Paul.
Yes.
Like it.
Very
it's
good.
magic. Sorry, I should show. It's magic.
It is
that the poem itself, or reading aloud of poetry, or both? Cool. So thank you, Paul and Draghetti.
Yes.
As well. Oops, you showed it and I hit it. We had the same thought. You beat me.
Oh, and let's hear from Paul himself. Something a bit lighter. Thanks for reading. Yeah, thank you for sending them in. And like, you've been super active on like the page and letting people know. So thank you for that too. I think it's really great that you guys get so involved on Twitter and stuff too. It's really cool.
Yeah.
All right. So Kateri,
okay.
You want to go with anonymous here?
Anonymous. We have submission from someone who would like to remain anonymous. This is just the poem. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I thought this was the person that had the other story. What's going on over there, Meg? Zach.
It is Zach, yeah.
Or is that your cat? Okay.
No, it was Zach, yeah. I was like, oh, I should probably mute.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so this is, was there an email? No, okay. Here's the poem, is basically all it says. Oh, where'd it go? This is called Claims of Her. She waves at you, you feel giddy. She gives a hint of sweetness, but deep inside, you see the bitterness. She claims she loves everyone, while you love everyone in silence. She claims she's an intellectual. You see through her disillusions. She claims to be your friend, but they've always said that she claims she won't judge you. But then she shut the door on you. And you realize her claims are a facade, and she's only a digital girl. Lasai. I feel like this is kind of funny because we're like two girls like online.
I know.
I'm assuming this isn't about us because we both have significant others who are not online.
Yeah.
So, we can rule that out, guys.
It's not us.
That would be kind of weird if you like. That would be a pretty pretty courageous if you submitted a poem about someone who was going to have to then read it.
Read it. I do like. I feel like this was a very therapeutic poem for this person to write.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, sometimes it's like journaling, but to me, like there's something. When I journal, a lot of the times, some parts turn into an impromptu poem.
Mm.
So if you have not tried that, guys, I think there is something to like turning your angsty moments in life and your trials and tribulations in love or other things, turn it into a poem.
Pretty much all of my poetry from college is super angsty.
Super angsty. Yeah.
Super angsty.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think that this is definitely like, it's an effective storytelling poem, and it does a good job at conveying the emotions. Yeah, very, very nicely done. She's only a digital girl.
I like
it's
that.
Like lighthearted, but it's lighthearted, but you feel for the person.
Yeah.
You know?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you, Anonymous, for sharing.
Yes. Oh, I didn't realize this. I didn't realize this next one. So it's a short story. It's like 6 pages.
Oh yeah. This is exciting.
I know. We could take turns, I feel like.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's a good point. Is there any breaks in the story? There's a break right there.
Which part?
Yeah, read to the break, and then I'll take over on the 3rd page, I think.
2, 3. Yes, I see it. Yep. And that's about halfway.
Okay.
Sweet. Okay.
Sweet.
So this one is from Audrey Fisher. She said, hey, ladies, I'm thinking of making Love in the Time of Corona, a short story collection, but here's the first one. Read it over. Let me know if you have any suggestions. Otherwise, feel free to read it one Monday. Thanks, Audrey. Well, we're reading it now, Audrey.
The day has come.
Yes. Okay. So this one, Love in the Time of Corona by Audrey Fisher. And this is Ron and Jill's story. How much toilet paper do we have left, hon? There was silence as Ron walked down the hall to the bathroom, inventoried their stock, and returned to the kitchen. 1 roll, he grumbled, his voice low and full of shame. 1? Yeah. Why didn't you say anything earlier? She turned off the faucet and put her freshly soaped hands on her hips, looking at him in disappointment, a look he was all too familiar with lately. I just forgot. Babe, I put you in charge of replenishing. I know, I forgot, okay? No, it's not okay. This system doesn't work unless we all pull our weight. Her voice was rising to a high-pitched panic, her stress octave. He hated when she spoke to him like this, like he was a child, like he couldn't do anything right. She wouldn't say that if you asked her, but he knew that's how she saw him. I'll go to the store. Ugh, she bit one corner of her lip, another stress signal. Fine, but make a list and let me check it. If you're going to go, you might as well get everything we need if you can. Ron dragged his feet to their coffee table, a hand-me-down from a friend who, after she got divorced, couldn't settle in one place for longer than a year and got tired of lugging it around. It was solid oak and came with matching side tables for their bedroom. Their entire house was furnished with hand-me-downs. Chairs from Salvation Army, TV from her brother, bed from their friend. Jill always said that they may not have much, but at least they don't have debt. They were ahead of the curve in that respect. Atop the coffee table was a hand-carved wooden basket Jill bought when studying abroad in Italy. It folded flat if not in use, but it was always in use. A pen and sticky notes lived in one of the 3 basket compartments shaped like hearts. Ron sat on the couch, covered by a blanket, not because it needed to be, but because Jill hated plastic, but also hated filth, and a blanket was easier to clean than the couch cushions. They had recently bought a $700 steam cleaner to calm Jill's anxieties of the virus that had kept them indoors for 3 weeks now, but she still insisted on the blanket. Ron had grumbled about that purchase. That $700 had been a year's worth of saving for a trip to Greece next summer. He acquiesced because he couldn't, with any certainty, determine when, or if, that trip would ever be possible again. Ron sighed and scribbled a few needed items onto a sticky note. In normal times, Jill took care of all of this. He just went to work and came home and everything was done. The cleaning, the grocery shopping, dinner made or in the making. She worked too, but carried the weight of the domestic chores. Not because Ron wouldn't help, but because he could never do it to her standards, so she ended up doing it over anyways. No sense in doing things twice, just let me, she'd say. Had Ron known the extent to her obsessive cleanliness, he may have chosen not to marry her. The guilt of that weighed down his limbs, making him feel anchored in place. Chicken, beef, broccoli, beans, milk, bread, toilet paper. All right, add whatever you want before I go. Just let me finish in here first. Every day was the same. Jill cleaned the same surfaces, vacuumed the same lines, wiped the same doorknobs daily. She steam cleaned once a week, or whenever she felt like things were dirty enough to warrant it, which lately meant every 2 days. Ron appreciated the steam cleaner, though, as the fumes from the bleach, ammonia, and Lysol were starting to give him headaches. Jill couldn't relax until these things were done. Until the house looked like perfection, everything in its place, every crumb thrown away. Her poor mind was filled with a running list of all the things that needed to be done, and when they were done, all the things that needed doing. As tired as Ron was, he knew she was more so. Jill turned the faucet on as hot as she could stand it and washed her hands for 2 rounds of ABCs sang in her head. She used to do it out loud, but Ron got so annoyed with her once that he growled at her to pick another song, goddammit. And since she couldn't think of anything else, she just sang it in her mind. She understood. Who wouldn't feel a little crazy hearing the ABCs 100 times a day? She didn't need to wash her hands this long, per CDC recommendation, but she needed to for her own sake. If she washed them just once, they didn't seem clean enough. Her knuckles were already cracking. To combat the dryness, she now smoothed lotion on her wet hands after every wash. She had 10 bottles tucked away under the sink that would probably last her another month. Jill had always been cleanly. She grew up in a household that liked to go to church on Sundays, repeat the phrases the preacher said, but forget the real message in action Monday through Saturday. Cleanliness is next to godliness. The pandemic had heightened her awareness for the need to clean. Before, she could do deep cleanings once a week, maybe every 2 weeks if they had been diligent about daily upkeep. But now, 2, 3, 4 times a week. Daily cleaning multiple times a day. She cleaned, or was about to clean, for most of the day, only resting for short breaks of sitting and reading, but she couldn't focus, so she would return to cleaning. She often thought they needed a smaller house. She was tired of cleaning so many rooms, so many countertops, so many floors. Okay, let me see this list. Ron handed it to Jill. She had this funny habit of pulling her lips back, not into a smile, but into a straight-faced grin when she was thinking hard. Not bad, she said, and smiled. Can I see the pen? He handed it to her. Wait, have you washed your hands? Yes, honey, I've washed my hands. Okay, so this is clean. Do you think the pen is fine? Yes, the pen is fine. He knew what was coming next. She was trying, she really was. Jill spritzed the pen with rubbing alcohol she had poured into little spray bottles and pumped a glob of hand sanitizer into her palm, rubbing vigorously. Try to find wide egg noodles. I'll try. He sensed the list bothered her, that she wanted to reorganize it, so it was ordered in the way you would walk the store. He watched her take a deep breath, then hand it back. God, I wish we could just get TP online, she said, almost in tears. Honey, it's going to be okay. He stood and put his palm on her back. She flinched, but then relaxed as he rubbed it. pinching the tops of her trapezius muscle. They were rock hard and bringing her shoulders up to her ears. Okay, you're right. Long sleeves, mask, goggles, and gloves. It had become her mantra. Yes, dear. Ron had taken to these 2 words whenever she started to get a little obsessive. It was easier to agree than to argue, and he knew it was coming from a place of love, a place of squeaky clean love. Making sure their house was disinfected, that he went out with protection, that they had home-cooked meals. It was the way she showed her love right now, because the sex had all but stopped. Even regular affections like cuddling and kissing were rare now. And every time Ron had to go outside, the distance inside their house widened.
Going to the store required strategy. At the beginning of the lockdown, mornings were packed. Now they're reserved for the elderly because no one should be elbowing Grandma to get some pasta. Let Grams have it. Ron imagined what he would do if he saw someone accost a grandma or grandpa. He was 6'7" and 250 pounds of muscle underneath a layer of flab. He intimidated most people, but was really a gentle giant. He decided he would put the assaulter in a headlock if it came down to it, and if it did, he probably shouldn't tell Jill. Touching others while in public was completely forbidden. In the middle of the day, the store was filled with wanderers. People who weren't used to having so much time and needed something to do. The wanderers would look around the store, pick one thing, buy it, and do the same thing the next day. These people came to get some semblance of social contact, but truly they just crowded the aisles in an uncomfortable way that made 6-foot social distancing more like a game of Tetris and amplified Ron's own anxiety about the virus, even though he was well protected for a civilian. In fact, he looked ridiculous compared to most people who weren't even wearing masks or gloves, but he knew if they had found the supplies or were taking this seriously enough, they would look like him too. He was protecting himself, but he was also protecting them. So, mornings and midday were out. Going at closing time meant there was hardly anything left. But going around 8 p.m., when most were inside for the night, proved to be fruitful. Stock was picked over, but if you weren't picky, you could find most things. Jill was obsessive over cleanliness, but thank God she wasn't obsessive about what type of food they got, as long as when it came home, it was disinfected. She had realized that the only things she could control were inside the home. At the beginning of the lockdown, Ron had made a deal with Jill that if the parking lot was too full, he would turn around and try again another time. The clock glowed green, 8:01 p.m. Ron let the engine idle for a bit. The poor burb wasn't used to sitting in the driveway like she did. She wanted to drive, wanted adventure, and so did he. He tapped his thumbs on the steering wheel, surveyed the parking lot. If possible, most people tried to park with at least one spot between their cars, giving everyone ample space to stay the fuck away. Trash lined the medians. Carts piled up in the empty parking spaces because apparently it was too much of an inconvenience to walk 5 feet and put them into the cart collector. Ron hated people like that, even in a pandemic, when he tried to be understanding of the bizarre quirks people adopted to stay safe. He wished humans would be more kind and thoughtful, not less. It takes little effort to put a cart back. The goggles sat in the seat next to him. He stared at them for a moment before putting them on. He scurried into the store. There was no dilly-dallying, no overthinking about whether you wanted asparagus or not. It was in and out. If they didn't have what you wanted, you moved on and found something else. You grabbed what you wanted out of impulse if you could afford it. You avoided people. If they got too close, you stepped away. Everyone had the virus. Everyone was lava. His trip went smoothly until the toilet paper aisle. It was empty except for one 4-pack. Good enough, Ron thought. As he walked towards it, a man a little shorter, with a shaved head, bulkier shoulders, and a thicker neck came from the other end. He wasn't wearing a mask or gloves. Ron knew as he grabbed the TP that this was going to be a fight. He had seen some online and had mentally prepared himself for the possibility. He wished he had started here instead of ended. He added that to his mental list of shopping strategies. "Give me that, motherfucker," the man said, and lunged at Ron. "Look, if you need some, I'm happy to give you a roll before I leave." "No, I need it all." The man's eyes were red and his lips curled to show his teeth. He smelled like a bar at closing time. Too bad. Ron started to walk away, out the way he came, even though he wanted to go toward the checkers, when he felt wind on his face, then a fist the side of his goggles. Ron said nothing, pushed his cart away from him, and swept his left leg out, catching behind the legs of the man and pulling them out from underneath him. The man lost his balance and conked his head on the floor. With the man dazed, Ron took off after the cart and ran to the checkout, his heart in his throat. The difference between checkout with a human and self-checkout is nil. There are human fragments everywhere, invisible, floating, clinging. Ron went for one with a human, a young man with a red afro and big freckles, his favorite checker. "Hey man, someone assaulted me in the TP aisle." "Well shit, let's be quick about this then." This guy always made Ron feel better. His attitude wasn't one of needing pity. He was service-oriented, funny, and energetic. Perfect demeanor for a pandemic. Ron left the cart behind him in the checking aisle, a barrier between him and the man. He quickly threw the groceries into his bag, saw the total was $37.89, tossed two 20s on the counter, said keep the change, and ran out the sliding glass doors to his car. He now understood why people left carts in a hurry. As he started the engine, the grizzly-dazed man stepped out of the automatic doors. "Fuck this," Ron said, and peeled the other direction as quickly as he could, while still maintaining some semblance of safety. His eyes met the man's, his chest puffed and his fist pulsating. The man ran after the Suburban, screaming, leaving spools of spit stringing behind him. There were 6 ways to leave the parking lot. Instead of taking his normal exit to get home, Ron went straight to the top sign that connected to a main road. No one was coming, so his rolling stop lurched back into action. The light up ahead was red. The frothing man was gaining on him, rage and adrenaline pumping through his veins. Come on, Ron said. He pressed the door lock and gripped the steering wheel, checked the rearview mirror every few seconds, begged the light to turn green. There were no cars. He wondered if he should just gun it. Ron regretted his decision to take a pathway home with stoplights. But as soon as the man slammed both fists on the back of his burb, jimmying the handle to the back doors, the miracle happened. The light turned green, and Ron gunned it out of there, leaving the man cursing, his hands in the air, his veins bulging out of his neck, his face redder than any tomato. Ron continued to check the rearview mirror as the distance between him and his attacker widened. Blood pumped through his ears. He didn't turn the music on. There was no one else on the street, but Ron took in everything, noticed every car, every door opening, every hand. In the rush, he hadn't the time to take off his gloves and use hand sanitizer, the usual protocol. He would need to disinfect the car. Ron went the long way home, going 2 more stoplights before taking a right, still checking the rear view every now and then to make sure the man had not followed. Once Ron was back in his neighborhood and pulling into his driveway, his stomach relaxed. He sat in the car for a moment longer, leaving the keys in the ignition, wondering what the world had come to. Was it always going to be like this? Would things ever be normal again? What would normal look like after this? Before leaving the car, Ron took off his gloves in the way doctors and nurses do. Jill had made him watch a YouTube video. Tossed them in the garbage hung from the center cup holder, globbed a dollop of hand sanitizer into his palm, rubbed for 20 seconds, waved his hands in the air like a goof, and took a wipe from their stash in the back seat and wiped the steering wheel and door handle down. He wiped the outside door handle as he left, then wiped the back door handle where he and his wife had agreed to store the groceries at all times. It was easy to disinfect with a can of Lysol spray. The protocol for entering the home went like this. Ron knocked on the door with his elbow. Jill would take the groceries on the end of a long stick that they had found in their garage while he took his shoes off. They were left outside. He was not allowed to step on the ground either. He had to untie both shoes loose enough to wiggle his feet free, then leap through the front door. The one time he accidentally wore his shoes inside after going to the store had started a fight that left them both emotionally hungover for the rest of the day. That was all it took to never do it again. While Ron waited by the front door, Jill would take the groceries inside and set them in the place they had designated the dirty area of the kitchen. This area was disinfected after everything else was wiped and cleansed. Before Ron could move freely about the house, Jill had to steam clean him. He would stand, his eyes shut tight, while Jill blasted him for 5 minutes. He was always drenched in sweat by the end. Then he had to take his clothes off, put them in a plastic bag, hand those off to Jill to throw in the laundry, and before he could take a shower, he had to wash his hands and do a saltwater rinse with cooled down boiled water. Jill had it waiting on the counter, the steam billowing towards his face, goosebumps prickling his naked body. "Check the temperature with your chin," she said as she carefully pulled out each item from the store and wiped them with a Clorox wipe. She held one wipe in each hand so she could grab an item with one, then use the other to clean it. No cross-contamination. Fresh stuff was soaked in a bowl of water with a tiny bit of soap in the kitchen sink, then rinsed before being put away. "I know," Ron said. At some point, he hoped she would trust him enough to do it without a reminder. 3 times each," she said, still wiping diligently, no surface untouched. "Honey, I know. I'm just saying." When the water was warm but not scalding, Ron dipped his face in, opened his eyes 3 times for 5 seconds, the salt burning and clouding his vision for only a moment. Then he would do his nose, this time keeping his eyes out of the water. He would inhale the water and blow out 3 times. Gunk from the trip, and the day floated to the top. Jill always took care of the dirtied water so he could go promptly to the shower for a minimum of 5 minutes. It was a lot, but Ron did it because he loved her and he wanted to stay safe. Most of all, he wanted to stay married. He wanted to get back to a time where he and his wife could go out to dinner, where they could both go to the store, where they didn't need to wipe down everything, where they could take their shoes off at the front door inside the house. He wanted to see Jill smile again, wanted to feel her soft, smooth skin against his, and hold her close before bed. In the shower, Ron cried for the first time since the shelter-in-place had started. He imagined the normalcy they had taken for granted a month ago. He imagined going for a hike. He imagined seeing people and not running in the other direction. He wanted to shake hands, invite friends over for a barbecue, have sex with his wife. Every fiber in his body ached for normal. Every memory of it enveloped in his teardrops that swirled down the drain. The end.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. Megan, you're muted.
Oh, am I? Is that better?
Oh, you're not muted? I was like, oh, she's really quiet.
Yeah, I was just kind of like
Okay, can you sign your thoughts?
No. I was very enthralled in
Maybe
the story.
You should exit the broadcast and come back in. I will look at the comments. Disinfect the back of the car. The guy touched it. Oh, yeah, you like noticed the part where he had slipped up and needed to fix it. Oh my gosh, you're all still here. That's so awesome. I just have to say, like, love the story, but she's not muted. But is it just me that can't hear her? Can you guys hear her? Because I'm hearing nothing but static. I guess that means that you can hear her if it's just me. Why can't I? Oh. Say something.
Something.
I think this died. Okay, sorry. That was my bad.
I was like, wait,
what? All the way up.
My Wi-Fi's working.
Oh, I know what it was. I got a text, and so I turned my volume off. So no, it was totally me. Sorry, guys.
I was like, wait a second, my Wi-Fi is totally working. I know it is.
Yeah, you're like, no idea.
I don't know.
I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, I was totally enthralled by the story. I was like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm definitely not that extreme at all, but I totally like understand the heightened anxiety.
I love that this story, like, this was my impression of it. Like, it feels like it's satirical at the same time that it's not.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
Yeah.
the Jill character feels very satirical, but then you know that there are people like her.
Yeah.
Like, not a satire. Like,
Yeah.
there's real people like her.
Like, I can just imagine that people who already have OCD, specifically around like germs and cleaning and stuff, I can just imagine how this has exacerbated that.
Yeah.
For sure.
And also, if you have, like, I have a friend who's my age who has an autoimmune disease.
Yeah.
And, like, the fear, especially since this is still so new, like, you know, the fear that that might bring to somebody would be, like, really legitimate.
Yeah.
There's so many moments that I was like, when you were reading, I was like trying not to crack up. And then my half got a little more real. But then, like, the initial, like, onset of the story, the first half, I was like, this is hilarious.
I don't know if you saw, but literally the part where he was talking about sticking his face in the cooled down boiled water, I literally was like,
yeah,
no.
Whoa, damn. As I was reading the some of the stuff that, like, the steps he was going through, I had to, like, I was like, it was hard for me to process. I'm not very good at, like, processing stuff. I have to read stuff twice all the time. But it was like, I had this, like, delayed reaction where I was, like, reading the sentence and then, like, realizing, like, wait, what? What is he doing?
Yeah.
It's very confusing.
Yeah, for sure. It was just, it was good though.
I was totally hoping that they were gonna bone. Like, at the end. Was anyone else like, this is how it's gonna end? He's gonna take her in his arms. He was naked at the end too, so
yeah. I guess the crying
makes
more sense.
I know, like, that's the thing. Like, it would have been more the satirical element in a way somehow, I guess, if they had sex. But, like, the crying really, like, made everything just feel real. Which I think that's a better ending. I think it was really effective and definitely, like, gave it heart.
I love a good shower cry.
Yeah, good shower cry. Me too, actually.
When you're, like, crying so hard that you're like, I don't know what's like water and what's tears.
What's not? Yeah, where the water's coming from? It's coming from over there, from here.
Yeah, been there, done that.
Yeah, and just funny to, like, have everything just be so real and so relevant, so current, and just to, like, be, like, living this experience that we're all living, and then to see, like, that story just covered so many elements. Like, she packed a lot of elements into that one story that most of us all dealing with.
Oh yeah.
On some level. Yeah. Appropriate.
Very appropriate. Yes. I feel like sometimes we both read the comments out loud and people are like, oh, they're just randomly saying this.
Yeah. Cool.
That was good.
Yeah. Oh, I know Audrey. I don't think Audrey's. Is she in here? The chat?
I don't think so. She usually says hi.
She says she might make this a series, so that would be interesting. It would be so interesting to, like, have a series of short stories that, like, each short story, like, delved into different people's reactions and different people's daily lives. For sure.
Yeah. I mean, it is interesting because the dynamic does kind of change a little bit, just because, I mean, I love spending time with my husband. He's, like, my best friend in the entire world. I could spend oodles of time with him, but I still need my alone time. And it's very hard to get in, a 2-bedroom apartment.
Yeah. I would
until
just
you
say
get short.
I felt like it could have been a true story and really captured this moment in history. Yeah. Could have been a true story. Very well is a true story. But I think it's interesting how I like the evolution of how it was mostly kind of about it's called Love in the Time of Corona, and it's not really about, like, their relationship is not very loving. And it doesn't even come to that. You don't get that moment, but you at least get it from his perspective, from the guy's.
I think that's interesting. I think it's interesting because I think a lot of times you expect you're going to get it from the woman's perspective.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's mostly a story. It's a story about them, but it's a story about him and how he's trying to accept this new version of his wife. You know, like, I still love her and I want to stay married to her, but it's just a huge adjustment.
Right. Yeah. And I think it kind of had to be told that way, because if we were in Jill's head, it would have just been too focused, and his perspective was able to be a little more broad and a little more, like, level-headed in a way. And yeah, I think that was all very intentional, and I like how she crafted that for sure.
For sure. You coming up?
Cool. Well, thanks, Audrey. We'll hopefully have more in the series. Stay tuned.
I know. I want more.
So,
I'm playing with my cat on the side.
Play with the cat.
Hello.
So we have 2 more poems.
She's attacking me. Yeah. No, we have 1 more poem and another short story.
Oh, I see. Okay. So you want to read the poem, and then I'll read the. How long is? The short story is 6 pages, but it's not as long actually, because it's like double spaced. Okay.
All right.
Where are we?
I don't know why that one took so much out of me. I'm just like, what?
Me too. Yeah, you got to read the next one, Megan. You got to break.
I know. So many emotions. Okay. Okay, awesome. So this one's from Raceland. Hi, figured I'd share what I'd like to call a part of my Rhyme Zone series. Hope you all like it. Okay. I feel like I need to, like, make sure my tongue doesn't get tied with like, in the zone. Okay. I'm so into my head and alone. I've forgotten all about what time zone I'm in. All I can really do is put another rhyme in, give it another spin with my iPhone, as I often struggle, think, and feel it where to begin. Sorry, I think that was... Okay. To think and feel where to begin, because it feels like an inner 4D abstract tug of war. I hardly know which rhyme zone I'm in, hardly know how to even end when I begin. Not even with pen could I write out enough dots and pictures to cover a wall like a detective on a case. All I can really do is be reflective with an incentive and get a little incentive this maze. Just gotta be persistent regardless of how resistant life can be, even when the light of my goals are further than what I can see. Not even sure if I'll ever be more than a pawn, but I can assure that by some distant dawn before I'm gone, I'll become, achieve, or contribute something that'll become something worth calling legendary. Life of a visionary, I want to make something better than secondary. Working on this at midnight, I'm feeling weary with little love to carry on. Life without a father or mother figure has got me a little cold, go figure. But I have 3 role models in my life, like the 3 entrepreneurial musketeers. But I'm an oddball yet appealing, like a UWO in the Amazon. I'm difficult to identify and configure. It's much easier to assume and pull the trigger than it's to say I could be a model, when I can barely waddle on my way out onto the new tiers of life, and when I'm still a lone man that never had a wife and same old minimum wage peers, still struggling through the years because he's unfit for 9-to-5 careers. It's easy to see I'm rare just by the first name I bear, named after a wizard, but nobody seems to believe in magic or really care. But thanks to being in an unknown zone frequently on my own, like a lone wolf, I'm used to the wear and tear as it gets my heart beating like a snare, like when I had no money to spare, and all that I had was something I could carry or wear. So I'm not smiling because this is like a funny poem. I'm smiling because the rhyme, I was telling Kateri this before. Yes, this was definitely a snaps type of like, I feel like I was reading slam poetry.
Yeah.
But I'm smiling because I love this kind of rhyme scheme. And definitely like, I would say this to him too, but definitely like, I think if you honed in and like came at this again, like, I don't know, I really like the in rhyme, like the rhymes that are within the lines. I don't know, it just like flows off the tongue. And so I was smiling because you really got into it really good towards the end. And I was like, oh, this flows so nicely.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it definitely builds really nicely. Yeah, it has that kind of like scrappy kind of like you're like, I don't know, like I picture like being like in a park or like on the edge of a rooftop somewhere, you know, like in a music video.
So edgy.
The drone going by, you know, like saying like I'm gonna take on the world, kind of thing.
It's like edgy, a little bit.
Yeah, definitely edgy. So yeah, really nice. I'd like to hear it like almost like as a song, or like there's poetry that's like it's poetry to music. It's not a song. Something along those lines would be really nice for a poem like this.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun to read out loud.
Yeah. Yeah, and definitely very personal. So thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Very nice. Okay. So 1, 2. This is 6 pages. Do you want to? There's no break, but you want to just take over at the top of page 4?
Yes, I can do that.
I'll finish that paragraph, so you can take over at the. You'll hear when I end anyway. But yeah. The first full paragraph on page 4. Okay. So this is supposed to be a fun one, right?
Yes.
Megan? Oh, this isn't. Oh no, it's titled Dice. Okay, here we go. Oh, and then who's this by? Sorry.
William.
It says, hi, Megan and Kateri. See, Megan and Kateri. I'm not sure if you're still looking for story submissions for today or not, but if you are, I typed this up last night. Hope you guys enjoy it. It's meant to be something light to contrast with the darkness going on right now. Thanks for everything you guys do, Will. Oh, thanks, Will.
He said, oh, this is mine.
Nice. Will is here. Oh, yes. Okay, Will, you are going to finish us off. Do we still have time for me to read my story after?
I think so.
Okay.
Do you guys have some extra time? I think that's fine.
Okay. That's not my story, by the way. Just my story's pick. Okay. So this is Dice by Will. I'm sorry, I don't know your last name. Will J. We'll go with that. I hate games with dice. Oh my gosh. There's another Ron. Oh, that's funny. We like Ron. Ron's cool. Okay, here we go. Take 2. I hate games with dice. Ron texted me this morning to come over after dinner because a game he backed on Kickstarter had finally come in. Usually he was extremely cryptic about the nature of the game. Walking in, I could see why. On top of this table sat a cardboard pyramid with 3 levels leading up to the pyramid's apex. On each level, there were squares with face-down cards on them. It's been a while since I played a board game with a multi-level board. but that barely registered as I saw the six-sided die lying on top of the third level of the pyramid. Dude, there's only one die. You told me you hated dice, Ron said smugly. I heard Emily let out a small giggle. I looked around and noticed that Emily and Melissa had already arrived and were seated around the game table. I was so fixated on the die that I didn't even notice I was the last to arrive. You hate dice as much as I do. Yeah, but like Ron said, there's only one die, she quit back. I scowled at her. Em was usually on my side in important matters like this one. Traitor. Leo, you said you hate dice because they add variance. You like card games, however, Ron said, smiling. Yeah, but card games are different. You get to make choices based on what cards you draw and the chances of drawing them. Your fate isn't determined solely by the cards. Leo, what are the chances of drawing at least one of 3 cards in a 40-card deck if you draw 6 cards? Ron asked. Without missing a beat, I responded. 39.4%. Leo, you just like card games because you memorized obscure statistics that no one else knows. What? No, that's not true. My stammering was cut off by Melissa choosing then as a good time to say hi and give me a hug. I hugged her back, but she didn't let go, subtly pulling me towards the game. I sighed, letting her seat me. Ron smirked and sat down across from me. All right, so the name of the game is Luck of the Gods. The rules are pretty simple. The 4 of us are 10th century adventurers that have traveled to Egypt in search of riches. We found a buried manuscript from the great Greek historian Herodotus. Inscribed in it are directions to climb the pyramid of Khufu. At the top, the secrets to transcending life into the next world await. However, the gods do not look kindly on those that try to transcend the natural order. Herodotus warned any future adventurer that the way up the pyramid is filled with perilous traps and dangerous guardians. Adventurers must be very careful or be willing to tribute abundant amounts of gold. The objective of the game is to have the most money by the end of the game. As you can see, the outside of the board looks sort of like Monopoly board. 11 squares on each side. The next 2 levels are pretty much the same but smaller. Like a Monopoly, you roll at the start of the turn and move that many squares. The next 2 levels are similar except with less squares. Each level has a corner called Start. On each square, there are 2 face-down cards representing monsters to defeat. Each monster requires you to roll a certain number to defeat. To help you defeat these monsters, at any point during your turn before you roll to fight the monster, you may spend gold to buy various items that grants you favors from the gods, such as increasing your rolls or letting you re-roll bad rolls. If you defeat the monster, you receive a certain amount of gold as loot. If you fail to defeat the monster, each monster has a gold penalty that you must pay. If you cannot afford it, you pay all the gold that you have and skip your next turn. You keep your items, however. Note that purchased items do not count towards your final gold count. After fighting a monster, regardless if you win or lose, discard the monster card. The monsters get progressively harder as you advance across the board and as we level up, but the rewards get bigger as well. All players move to the next level when all monsters on the level are fought. Additionally, on their turn, instead of moving, any player can elect to move to the next level if they feel like they are in a comfortable lead by paying 1,500 gold pieces. If you look closely at the top of the pyramid, it's actually removable. There are 4 different endings to the game, so the last level is kept hidden until the end. The game ends when all monsters in the final level are defeated. Every player starts with 1,000 gold pieces. You do not collect more gold after passing Start. Any questions? None of us had questions. The first player is whoever last went to Egypt. I was the only one of us that has ever been to Egypt. I grabbed the die, rolled, and moved up 6 spaces. I flipped over an odd-looking phalanx. It looked mostly normal, except the man had 2 horns coming out of his head and no helmet. I only needed to roll a 2 to defeat it. I easily cleared it by rolling a 3 and received 200 gold for my efforts. Melissa went next and rolled a 5. She flipped over a sickly-looking priest that also required a 2 to defeat. She immediately spent all of her gold on a bow that let her see another player monster they failed to defeat by rolling a die and adding her roll to the other player's roll. In exchange, she would receive half the loot. As for the priest, she actually rolled a 1 and lost her next turn. Ron followed and also rolled a 5, facing the same priest. He elected to not buy an item and defeated the priest with the 3. M rolled a 2, revealing a relatively something-looking mummy, and defeated with another 2. Apparently, all cards in the first few squares were the same, requiring a 2 and rewarding players 200 gold. I rolled another 6. I flipped over the card underneath me. It was a muscular man with a horse for a gun. I grimaced, and not just because the man looked hotter than me. I needed to roll at least a 7 to defeat him. All right, let's buy a rune engraved spear for 800, plus 5 to all my rolls are looking pretty good, right? I rolled a 1. I hate games with dice. Melissa picked up the die and rolled a 4, defeating the horse-faced man. You're welcome, whiny baby, she said while grabbing our loot, 250 each. I'd like to say that I had a good comeback to that, but in actuality, I just grumbled under my breath while Ron and Em made their turns. Ron rolled a 1 and faced the horned phalanx, defeating it with a 3. Em ended up facing off against an ephemeral cat and buying a steel sword, increasing her rolls by 4 to help her defeat it. Despite only rolling a 2 to defeat it, she ended up getting 50 more gold than me. This continued for a few more rounds, with me repeatedly losing fights to monsters and Melissa repeatedly saving me. Once Melissa had about twice the gold as Ron and Em. She decided to pay the 1,500 required to level up. At this point, Ron grabbed the rulebook. Oh, I forgot to mention there's an actual storyline for the game once we reach the second level. As you ascend the second level of the pyramid, you feel a deep voice echoing inside all of your heads. Adventurers, you have toiled hard to reach this point. We can see your hearts and minds. We know that you do not have what it takes to reach the top and back. 2 of you are here out of greed. 1 of you is here out of desperation. The last of you is here simply out of boredom. None of you are worthy. I don't know if it's because of the story or because my luck had significantly improved, but as we played through the second level of the pyramid, I became more and more immersed in the game. I was the famed adventurer with a magic spear, rolling repeated 6s, narrowly defeating guardian after guardian. I played the part of a tunnel vision brute. I only bought items that would upgrade my spear with various engravings, all of which just increased the value of my rolls when fighting.
Em was an expert swordsman, carefully planning out every move she made. Unlike me, Em actually bothered to read through all of the different items. She bought items that would let her re-roll certain numbers and other items that would multiply the value of her roll on other numbers. Ever present, Melissa was the sniper in the background, saving Em and me whenever the odds were not ever in our favor. Despite her losing most of her own battles, because the rewards for defeating monsters were generally about twice as much as the punishment for losing, she was slowly gaining a lead on all of us. Ron was, well, forgettable. Ron did nothing but buy items that let him pray away monsters in exchange for splitting the loot between all players. Eventually, Melissa reached 8,000 gold, while Em and I were barely over 3,000. She paid the 2,000 to advance to the third level. Ron took out the rulebook again. As you ascend, you hear the rumbling in your heads again. I can see in your minds that some of you think this journey is easier than expected, but your hearts know better. A deep laughter finishes this thought. Ron put away the rulebook and rolled a 2. At this point, the monster cards had scaled up enough that a 20 was required to defeat the revealed Sphinx. Like usual, Ron used an item to dispel the Sphinx without rolling, giving all of us 200 gold. Em rolled a 5 and revealed a phoenix requiring a 22 to defeat. Despite all the items she bought, letting her repeatedly re-roll her dice, and finally multiplying her last 3 by 7, She still came up one short. Melissa, like usual, saved her with an arrow, receiving 450 gold. I also rolled a 5 and faced the same phoenix. My odds were more straightforward. I just had a plus 20 on all of my rolls. Of course, I rolled a 1, and Melissa had to come to my rescue. On her turn, Melissa landed a card containing what appeared to be Anubis. Anubis? It rewarded 2,000 gold, but required a 30 to defeat it. Her bow only gave her plus 5 in roll. Her bow only gave her plus 5 in rolls, so she was guaranteed to lose. Seriously, this card says lose all your gold if you can't defeat it? Wait, it says another player can lend you items in exchange for all of the loot. Anyone want 2,000 gold? Nope, this is a zero-sum game. You're in the lead right now. If you lose, we all do better relatively, I responded for all of us. Not bothering to roll, Melissa sulked as she placed her gold back in the box and handed Ron the die. Instead of rolling, Ron bought 7 copies of an item called Elixir of the Gods, which none of us had bothered to read, and spent the rest of his gold advancing us to the final level. You hear the deep rumbling for the last time. Puny adventurers, little do you know that all of you have done is meaningless in comparison to the full glory of the gods. Ron removed the cover from the final level. There were 4 squares, none of which had cards on them. 1 square, like every level, said start. 2 squares said go to start. The final square simply said win the game. We all looked at Ron. M exploded. You mean all of what we did for the last 50 minutes had no relevance to the game whatsoever? That's what the game said. I guess me losing all my gold at the last moment didn't actually matter, Melissa commented flatly. I simply walked over to Ron's fridge and grabbed a Corona without asking him. Ron watched me as I grabbed his no longer working flip phone and opened my beer with it, staring right at Ron while I did so. Petty, I know, but I was very careful not to spill any of it on his game as I sat back down. Well, not everything is irrelevant, Ron smirked at us. I, for one, bought all 7 copies of the Elixir of the Gods, each of which lets me re-roll one of my movements. You're insufferable, Em responded. We're not ever letting you choose the game after tonight. At least Ron is going last because he just took his turn. We all have a 1 in 6 chance of winning before he gets a turn, Melissa, ever positive, noted. Melissa picked up the die and rolled a 2. I, like usual, rolled a 1. Em huffed and shook the die in her hand for about 2 minutes straight and rolled. Despite us rolling into a dice tower, this dice still managed to spin for another minute upon landing. Finally, the die stopped moving. A 4. Ron grinned. He rolled a 2. He slowly turned in his item to let him re-roll before Em snapped at him. Just roll your damn dice. We know you have 7 more rolls to go. Ron rolled a 1, a 2, and then another 1. He then rolled 3 5s in a row. At this point, Ron started to look a little bit nervous. He started to copy Em, shaking the die in his hand until Em glared at him. He rolled a 4, a 6, a 2, and finally a 5. I literally had over an 83% chance of winning, Ron said, dumbfounded. He threw the die at Melissa, who expertly caught it. Melissa squealed as she rolled a 3, winning the game. I smiled sweetly at Ron. Ron scowled back at me and said, I hate games with dice.
Yeah. That was cute. Very cute.
I kind of want to play this game.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to be in there. Thought it was fun. The part that made me laugh was the point where it was all of that was for nothing, or
yeah,
the game played a number on them. I guess I don't play games that much, but I don't know if that's a common thing, but
yeah,
that was funny. I was like, we can totally connect that to UBI. Just I don't know. The value of money, the pointlessness of money. That's not the point of UBI. That's the opposite of UBI. But somehow it connects in my mind.
We've read too many words. We can't say our own now. We're
it's not a common thing. That would be funny then. That would be so funny. Okay, I want to play a game like that. That has has some mind fuckery where it's all this that puts you on this trip, and then it just like makes you like have existential crises. That's my
I
kind of
already
game.
play that game. It's called Life.
Good one. Good one. Cool. Thanks, Will. That was so fun. I have never read a story like that before, where you're like playing the game
Yeah.
with the friends. It's so unique. Super cool. Yeah, if you do more stuff like that or you work on that story more, let us know.
Yeah.
Cool. I think I have to go get lunch, so I think I'm gonna say come back next time, because this one's a little bit long too.
Yeah.
We've already read 2 short stories in this one, so maybe we'll start with this, and then any of you that have submitted, we will take. Sorry.
I saw that, yeah.
Oh, when is next time? Oh, well, that this one came in. I was gonna get Will's comment. That was this one. I think quarantine was starting to get me when I wrote that.
I think it's
Wanting
getting to
some social
everybody.
interaction. Yeah. You can live vicariously through your stories. That's a good
Yes.
idea. So write some more, Will. The question was, when is next time? So either next week or the week after. We won't go more than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It kind of depends on A, how many submissions we get, and B, how our schedule is too.
Yeah. We are also,
sometimes I have work.
Yeah. We're also, just for a little insider, we're also working on getting Greg Ellis back on.
Mm-hmm.
So, because he enjoyed his time. So we're working on getting him back on as well.
Yeah. So make sure you're following Greg Ellis. Give him some love so we can keep him coming back. I mean, he was great, and he, seemed to enjoy his time and want to come back.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's Yang Gang / Cullenites unite. And if you have any more poems that you want us to read, or if you have something that you would like him to read, then
that's how we feel.
Let us see. Let's try again. Yeah, let us know. We are starting to have some guidelines here, so you guys were all fine. But short stories under like what did I say, like 2,000 words or something like that? I forget. I don't think any of the Audrey's might have been 2,000 words because she had single spaced 6 pages.
Yeah.
So somewhere around there, and then anywhere between 1 to 3 poems, or if you have a long form poem, like 4 or 5 pages max.
Yeah.
No actual violence or sexual content.
Yes, please, no sexual content.
Yeah, like the trigger thing that we had today, like that was fine because that's part of the art. But if it's like the point is to just like be violent or be sexual, where we won't be reading that.
Yeah.
Understandably.
Yeah. So.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you guys for coming.
Yeah, thank you all for coming and listening in and submitting if you did. And stay tuned for us announcing the next story time, and then also stay tuned on our Twitter page for some other announcements, because we have more announcements coming.
Yes.
So thank you, Karina. Cool.
Yes. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.